If you don't have a plan, you're just hoping for the best. So we have to create a plan of action. And if it's as simple as just putting together lists, the next thing, which is super self-explanatory, you have to call the list. You have to follow up with the list. You have to nurture the list. And if you don't, I promise you somebody else is. Welcome to the Batch Gone Wild webinar. This is going to be an exciting one. In case you guys can't tell, this is not Jesse. This is Preston. He's going to be my co-host and helping me kind of just navigate the fun system of Batch today. So before I jump into all this fun stuff, Preston, let's get a little bit of a background. Where did you start in real estate? What experience do you have? Anything along those lines?
I grew up in a family of real estate investors, real estate developers in Southern California. My dad actually was early into many warehouses and self-storage in the 80s. So right at kind of the boom of that, unfortunately sold his properties mid-90s and kicks himself to this day. But a lot of family developed industrial property, commercial property in various parts of Southern California. Real estate developers in Oregon, interior designers, brokers, I mean, you name it. So I grew up entrenched in real estate. Did different kind of ventures in real estate for sure. I have had rental properties, and then I was a real estate agent in the state of Washington for a while as well. So
very cool.
Been around the space for a while. My actual career has been entrenched, though, primarily in digital real estate, aka the internet. So I help build software companies or technology companies and kind of connect that to real life. And so been here 2.5 years working side by side with Jesse, the founders, building out the team here, improving our software. I'm excited to share some of the recent improvements we've made and just go through for your audience how BatchLeads can be impactful.
I would love to kind of figure out exactly what changed with Batch, the reasoning behind it, how it's going to be better for the users, and then any questions the audience has, please feel free to go ahead and put a comment and we'll go through it together.
We're just going to go over a few slides real quick and talk about some of what's been going on in this industry. First thing is, what happened a couple years ago? We actually enjoyed about a decade of zero interest rate policy. That's what ZIRP is. We enjoyed this at the expense of obviously just housing going crazy, very lucrative deals in the market. A lot of institutional money came into the market, paying whatever for homes. That was a factor for a long time. So what happened then in early 2022? We saw the craziest rate hikes in 15, 16 years. Existing U.S. home sales were still definitely in a historical low here. 2023 was still a rough time for that, but obviously as we saw interest rates rose so much, it really hammered the market. And I'm sure everyone here who's an agent has felt this in different ways, which is why you have to be more creative, right? So this is going to be changing. What's kind of interesting is that there's still like a massive amount of off-market transactions happening. We can see here Texas, Florida, California, Georgia. Those are the most active ones for off-market transactions, but lots of those still happening. And this is a report we did with a company called Resi Club, which is a fantastic sort of analytics outlet for the single family space. But we already see signs of people coming back into the market from a retail perspective. These are just a couple headlines from Inman, but of course, record down payments coming back in, pending starter homes. So it's good to see the people coming back up through the bottom of the market or those intro homes, hopefully making some movement. These are just some major enhancements we've been making over the past year plus in BatchLeads. Agent outreach, huge one. Of course, we've made direct mail enhancements. You can have fully custom mailers in our platform now, merge field. So if you want to include, the equity, dynamic equity field, or like the AVM, the, sort of estimated value of the property. We've been adding tons of new search filters. We'll go through some of those in the demo. We have on market, so all the MLS info as well. And then vacant lot land searches, so for those who are kind of into that. Cool. Of course, if you're using an outbound dialer, we've made improvements there. And then our search updates in general, we've made it much more friendly for users to slice and dice the data, find the properties you want, that you want to go after to either get listings or investments for you or your clients. So, that's been good there. But I mean, one of the biggest things we harp on is the quality of the data, right? You can get quantity all day long, but good quality data is going to drive the action. And this chart is kind of speaking to what I was just saying about data, is just the quality of the contact information for the property owner. We are head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to that for single family. So that's a key thing there. And we can actually look into LLCs as well. So, what's next? Of course, Batch Rank we just rolled out with, and we'll show a demo of that potentially as well. And this is really more for the off market. But if I'm like, I don't know what kind of lists I go after as an investor, am I doing the pre-foreclosures? Am I doing the high equity? Am I doing tired landlords? Whatever it is. If you're like, I just need somewhere to start, this is our own AI propensity algorithms to find, hey, just the likelihood to sell. And so you can see, you can drag across from these 5 different stages here to go up in these different tiers and find the most likely to sell properties.
And you said this is an artificial intelligence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as we continue to get feedback of these properties being successful, because people save them, they log the status of them, it'll improve the accuracy of that over time. So yeah, it's a pretty sweet feature there. And here's where you can find it when you're in the UI. So you'll see that when we go in there. Our old plans, just to cover off on this industry as a whole, if you did any amount of skip tracing, which most people have to, finding the owner contact information, it's typically this like separate activity you have to do, right? You're paying per record. There was a time in this industry where it was upwards of $1 to get contact information, so that was like probably 15 years ago, but it's dropped substantially since then. So on these old plans, you get some credits in those monthly tiers, but what we switched to is this all-inclusive format. So whatever plan you're on, you get all that contact information included. So it's not this like separate activity you have to do. Huge savings for anyone doing this. Okay, so this is just the property search as you get into BatchLeads. I have it on Phoenix, Arizona right now. Is that good to start with? Anywhere else you want to go?
Yeah, let's start with Phoenix. Let's keep it nice and easy. For what I prefer, it's obviously East Valley, but with that said, Phoenix is a nice, easy, open market. For someone that's watching this, let's make it easy to follow along.
Cool. Okay. When you're in BatchLeads, of course, by default, it's going to show you both on and off market properties, but being agent investor, we're going to go into this on market. So you just select that as a strategy here. So you'll see all these, by the way, these are quick filters along the top and they'll change. So if I go to off market, you're going to see absentee owner, pre-foreclosure, vacant, tired landlord. And now as I click on market, these quick filters changed, right? As we were talking before, I think you wanted to look at maybe deal potential first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that if we can show everybody how they can pop on to Batch and filter things out that are on the MLS, maybe someone watching this is not a licensed realtor yet. So let's go to on market. We could filter this out by a percentage of ARV or spread, but I think percentage of ARV is better. Let's do 70%.
Yeah. I think we're about right here. Okay. So 512 properties.
Cool. And then the deal potential, we're good. On market, let's even put a price point up to maybe 600,000.
So in the quick filters here, in all filters, we'll go into MLS. And you said
let's do a price up to 600.
Up to 600.
And then there's a few more filters we could put on. So if this is someone's first time looking at the MLS and you're like, well, Ryan, there's no deals on the MLS, just look up my name and YouTube and you'll be surprised. There's plenty of deals on the MLS to start. The second piece is let's just give you some easy filters. First off, days on market and keywords are usually the 2 most common. So I would probably say 30 plus days on market minimum. And if we could throw a keyword in there, maybe let's say the word motivated.
And as we go in here, what you're going to see in the MLS info is you're going to see motivated sellers right there. So that's how
very motivated seller and assumable loan. So for those of you that love creative finance, I don't, but for those of you that love creative finance, this would be a great deal for you to be able to go out there and negotiate terms. Is this a property where price matters more or the terms do? Because I guarantee you it's price. That's why it's on the MLS.
And as the other thing I'll point out is you can see other distress indicators here as well on the right-hand side as you open up the property info, which could be good. And of course, you're going to have all of the listing agent information typically down here. I don't think we have it on this one for some reason, but you'll find all the listing agent information generally there as well. So to get the owner information, right, what we'd just have to do is save this to a list. So let's just save this to new list.
Perfect.
And I can choose this at the same time, right? So that's a pretty small list. We'll go check on that in a moment. I know you'd mentioned two,
Like if you were to take off keywords,
but what's another keyword?
invest.
Yep. And you can, of course, combine keywords, like, you know, comma separate them. Like, let's say you just didn't care about price.
There's a lot for sure.
Yeah.
And this comes down to really, at the end of the day, making sure you have your buyer first. Like what we're talking about here, I'm not looking for a list of 500. I'm not looking for a list of even 100. I'm looking for a list of at most 50. It needs to be something that I can accomplish in the day that I pull the list. One of my biggest pet peeves I hear is when people pull lists or they skip trace data and then they start planning out, well, I got 1,000 records. I'm going to call those 1,000 records over the next 30 days. Now what's going to end up happening is that data becomes old by the 30th day, that if you don't pull smaller lists and start working those one by one, or maybe get a dialer, that's the way of how I would recommend starting off.
What about like in the spread? I mean, is it just ARV percentage?
We do ARV mostly. The spread depends on the buyer. Usually it's like a 10% of ARV, or we'll see like a $30,000 minimum on average. So it really depends on the buyer, but realistically for us, ARV and percentages are a lot easier to run numbers on.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'll show you an off market now. Batch rank is on by default. You know, these are the sort of likely but least likely of all of them to sell. 206,000 properties. So it's already cutting down half, right? If I go up to the most likely, 4,308. So you can see it starts to tighten the parameters very quickly.
It's going to take a second for sure. I mean, it's going to filter out from 600,000 to 400,000 to 4,000. What's the algorithm doing on this?
So this goes back to, I'll say, the experience that we have as investors here, but also as people who serve investors, right? So there's a lot of different weighting going on in the background. Okay. And of course, like seeing the result of the status changes of these properties is super helpful for us as well. So some black box stuff to answer your question. But yeah, so you can see those properties show up here. And if I want to add all of these to, again, a list and save those properties, I don't have to do a separate action to skip trace them. They're all going to show up.
And how many lists do you recommend someone like start with? Like if I'm brand new to Batch and I've never used it before, taking out the acquisition strategy, it doesn't matter in this case. How many lists do I pull? What do you recommend starting with? What's kind of the first process of onboarding with Batch?
Yeah, I mean, I think having like between 1 and 3 lists. Okay. And the key there, I think, is not overwhelming yourself with all the different variations of, you know, I heard this, I heard that, let me pull those lists. Because, of course, when you're reaching out to these people, you're going to be creating different distress factors for these. You know, let's say you do have an on-market list that is the, you know, minimum days on market, and it is that max listing price and the spread. Like, that's one train of thought. But then you switch over to another one that's like off-market inheritance. Yep. You know, so it's kind of like you don't want to mix up those talk tracks too much versus, you know, right, if you're talking to a lot of people who have the same kind of issue, at least from a distress factor, you want to get really good at that talk track.
Sure. And so I like the idea, the 2 to 3 lists. What I always recommend first is obviously, first and foremost, pick a market. Second is finding a buyer. Once you have a buyer, you now know what you're looking for. It's very similar to like when I say it's a dog trying to find a bone, but it has a scent. So now you know what the bone looks like, tastes like, feels like, and now you know what to go and find. Whether it's on market or off market or a joint venture, or whatever the strategy is, you can go out there and stay consistent, but pulling 2 to 3 lists doesn't get you too distracted. It doesn't pull you in multiple directions. It doesn't have a switching cost of I'm on market, off market, creative finance, developer, private lender all at once. I'm on market right now. I'm off market right now. I'm joint venture right now. Or you even mentioned a minute ago, I can find my cash buyers in here too.
Yeah. So in here in these filters, you can do this cash buyer filtering. Okay. So I want to say, yes, it was a cash buyer. All? This is on all right now.
Okay. And so Phoenix is maybe a little too big on this one. Let's do a specific city like Gilbert.
Sure. Okay, so we're back in cash buyers, 18,000 properties where someone did a cash purchase.
Can I do this by the dates so I don't get people that bought 20 years ago? Let's do last 3 months. Again, I like small list. I'm fine with that. 278. Perfect. Can you save a list of cash buyers?
Yeah, let's look at the property details. Won't have the owner info yet. You can see like who it is, right? KC Online Services. So, but I can save this as well, and I'm just going to name a new list. Yeah, and so that's going to run 117 isn't that many to get the info for, but
no, I mean, this is something that honestly I would take and put into a text blast service and come up with something unique and original to be like, my name is Ryan. I come across properties all the time in Gilbert. Saw that you bought one in the last 90 days. I'm just curious, are you looking to buy another?
All right, I'm going to show you how to pull down these lists then. We just made this Gilbert cash buyer list. So if you want to like export all this to an Excel, or you want to add it, of course, to Batch Dialer. If you're using that for more aggressive dialing campaigns, or do a direct mail, you can do that from here as well, which is great.
I love it. I like the saved agents. We've done that one a few times where we pull lists and then we'll go and we'll save that. So that way the agents from that property are saved to another list. We want to make sure that everything we do is intentional. And I talk about this all the time. If you don't have a plan, you're just hoping for the best. So we have to create a plan of action. And if it's as simple as just putting together lists, the next thing, which is super self-explanatory, you have to call the list. You have to follow up with the list. You have to nurture the list. And if you don't, I promise you somebody else is. So if you guys got some value in today's webinar, please feel free to try out the 7-day free trial over at BatchLeads. Use that link. I make a little bit of money. It's my disclaimer. But we do a lot of trainings and resources and stuff provided inside of my school for people that use all of the resources that we also use. So if you guys got some value in today, make sure to check out BatchLeads, and I appreciate you guys.